Hey Joseph, you ready for the Dracotails intro?
Yeah, I'm just finishing up now.
Oh, it's Tails.
Oh, right.
Well, is the Malfoy smut any good?
No, it's about 9,000 pages of slither in-jokes and then this really hateful screed at the end.
Ah, well, Draco Malfoy always was racist.
Oh, no, Rowling wrote the afterword.
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. We're just about done with Jush. It's not often that all 3 decks in a deck build pack have meta-warping implications, but here we are. Despite what people prognosticated about a format full of canine and yummy, it looks like Dracotail is just as well positioned to mangle the meta. Hold on to your Canadian PBS standards. It's time for Dracotail.
Dragon Tales, it's almost time for Dragon Tales.
So here's the list. Ronnie Upal's winning regional list from this past weekend. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is a one-stop shop for all things Yu-Gi-Oh! They're responsible for the pack opener that makes series-like progression possible. They've got strategy articles for those looking to flesh out their fundamentals. They're the most complete repository of deck lists and results from regionals and YCSs online. And they've also got cube and draft infrastructure that's finally seeing use now that Yu-Gi-Oh! Players have come to the light of Limited. There's a good chance that any Yu-Gi-Oh! Content you see on YouTube has Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck's many tendrils somewhere within its DNA. So why not go to the source and improve your game, draft with friends, or just see what 11-year-olds are playing in their Blue Eyes decks this month? Head on over to YGOPRODECK.com. Now back to the video. With that, let's dive into Dracotail. Dracotail is a series of dragons that perform fusion summons. Sound familiar? They have an incredibly powerful spell card that permits them to use materials from their deck to perform a fusion summon. Sound familiar? And they have a stupid unintentional setup that allows them to basically cheat out Dragoon. Sound familiar? But branded this deck is not. Where Albaz and company were in the puppetry business, this deck is obscenely interactive, farting out fusions that mess with opponents through a wide array of axes. Their main deck monsters, Phimina, Lucius, and Labubu, all assist in fusion, and the rest of them just love being material. It's a slick engine with a lot of redundancy, the same sentence I've been saying about every one of the Jushy archetypes. Where this deck differentiates itself is its build. There's a lot of different directions you can take the Dracotails. Canine, for instance, is a very popular inclusion, but we're following Ronnie's wisdom and jamming King of the Swamp and, courtesy of Nergard, Cartesia. These make fusion summoning a breeze and really open up options in the extra. It also helps that Cartesia is one of the necessary typings for a Spirit into Herald line. The final sell for these cards is that at time of upload, they are cheap. So if you want an into the format without breaking the bank on Canine extenders, this is a great way to compete at a top tier level. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, we have Dracotail Phimina. During the main phase, either main phase, as a quick effect, you can discard this card to fusion summon a dragon or spellcaster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. Most of the Dracotails have this effect. If sent to the graveyard as material for a fusion summon, you can set a Dracotail spell trap from your deck. Dracotail Lucius, as if normal or special summoned, you can add a Dracotail from your deck to your hand, except itself, and if sent to the graveyard as material for a fusion summon, you can set a Dracotail spell trap. And then Labubu breaks the mold just a little bit. During the main phase as a quick, you can fusion summon a Dracotail fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field, and you're locked from the extra for the rest of the turn with the exception of fusion monsters. If sent to the graveyard as material for a fusion summon, you can set a Dracotail spell trap, but you can then also negate the effects of the face-up monster your opponent controls. Urgula doubles down on this powerful fusion material line. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a fusion summon, you can set a Dracotail spell trap from your deck, then destroy a spell trap on the field. And if this is in your graveyard, you can also target a spellcaster Dracotail in your graveyard, put this card on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, add that monster to the hand. Finally, we are playing a Dracotail Pawn, which if sent to the graveyard as material for a fusion summon, can set a Dracotail spell trap from your deck, then destroy a monster on the field. If a face-up fusion monster you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can put this card on the bottom of your deck, and if you do, special summon a non-fusion Dracotail from your graveyard, and both of those are hard onces. These are fantastic for a grind game situation. Not only do they put themselves back into the deck, they ensure that you always have material with which to work. These are occasionally played at 2 in these Dracotail decks. Ronnie goes pretty in-depth on it, talking about how while these cards are good enough to play 2 copies, playing 2 copies is pretty much the only way you end up with unplayable hands, finding multiples of these and not enough cards that perform a fusion summon function. Speaking of, Blazing Cartesia the Virtuous during the main phase can fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. Does not have to use her. So she's free to then be the material for a Spirit with Eyes of Blue into a Herald line. We're playing 3 copies of King of the Swamp as well, which really unlocks the extra deck. Let's get to the most pushed spells in the history of time. K2 Dracotail says add a Dracotail monster from your deck to your hand. Then if your opponent controls a monster, you can fusion summon a dragon or spellcaster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. And Rahu Dracotail says fusion summon a Dracotail monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, deck, or field. Also for the rest of the turn, you are locked from anything but fusions. These are just unbelievable individual cards, and of course you can set them off of the effects of the Dracotails. Fusing begets more fusing. Ketu specifically is just absurd at breaking boards. After that, we've got a copy of Polymerization, and then one apiece of Dracotail Flame, which targets a face-up spell in the field, negates its effects until the end of the turn, then places a Draco card from your graveyard or banishment on the bottom of the deck, except Dracotail Flame, then draws a card. And Dracotail Horn says, target an attack position monster on the field, return it to the hand or extra deck, then you can place a Dracotail card in your graveyard or banishment on the bottom of the deck, except Dracotail Horn, then draw a card. These cards are great in sequence with each other. They are a fantastic way to win a grind game situation, and Jush format games are grindy as all hell. In his profile, Ronnie talks a little bit about how, despite the fact that these are traps and not particularly good going second, he often would leave them in, just because if the game went long, having these is really indispensable. In terms of non-engine, we are on Fuelos, we're on Perulia, we're on Nibiru, we're on Ash, we're on Ghost Ogre, who's kind of having her moment between the yummy field spells and the Vanquish Soul one, and an Effect Veiler. In the extra, we've got a Spirit with Eyes of Blue, double Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, SP Little Knight, a Typhon, and a bunch of cards that I'm sure you're already familiar with. Securitrion, a Mysterion, a Dark Dragoon, a Tyrant Dragon, and a Guardian Chimera. Let's go to the ones you aren't. Dracotail Gulamel says when you activate a Dracotail card or effect, you can target a card your opponent controls destroyed. If 2 or more monsters are sent to the graveyard at the same time while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. And Arthalion has a similar effect. If 2 or more monsters are on the graveyard at the same time while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. And if fusion summoned, you can target monsters on the field or graveyards up to the number of monsters used as material from the hand, return them to the hand. In the side deck, we have 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, 3 Drolls, 2 Didi Crows, 3 Lancias, 1 Bagdamut, and 3 Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, which is really, really unbelievably good when it can draw you a copy of Femina. So with that, let's check out some games. Our first match is up against Yummy. Yeah, I'm about that confident. Our opponent doesn't have anything to interact with us on our first turn, so this is what the deck does uninterrupted. Now, this is going to look really low ceiling, but keep in mind that this is not a ceiling deck. It's all about setting up a singular play you can do on your opponent's turn that's going to net you an unbelievable amount of advantage. Here, we're just going to go Lucius for Femina for Arthalion. We'll trigger the effect of the Labubu in graveyard, then we're going to go for Spirit with Eyes of Blue for Hieratic Seal, activate the effect of the Rahu in order to make a Gulamel with an Urgula, and also the copy of Femina. We're going to set both traps here, then activate the Urgula in graveyard in order to cycle back to Femina and pass back to our opponent. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Engage. That will grab them a Hornet Drones 2-hand. Remember, this is full combo. They will go Hornet Drones into a token, into a Kagari, into a Hornet Drones, into a token, and it's time for us to start interacting with them. I think I'm going to lead with the copy of Horn, so we'll flip that up. That's going to fall victim to this copy of Dominus Purge, which means we have to fire off the Seal afterwards to keep them off material, and summon a copy of a Pawn from deck. From here, they're going to go for the Cookie Yummy, prompting the Femina from us. Let's go for the Fusion. We'll go Arthalion, trigger the effect of the Pawn, and the effect of the Malulu, and the effect of Arthalion in the yard as well. This is going to allow us to set a copy of Ketu and also just go ahead and get that cookie back to the grip. We'll set a copy of Rahu and bounce this token, at which point they will go Yummy Surprise, and out comes the cookie regardless. We're going to have to play a little Yu-Gi-Oh! They'll go Yummy Snatchy for the field spell, but unfortunately we've let them do this because we have access to Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. They'll go to the battle phase, and this is a cool play. Walk in with the Snatchy, so in main phase 2 they can go for the Obedient Schooled. That's going to fall victim to the Dracotail Flame, which is probably why they didn't lead Obedient Schooled, and they'll scoop it up. So that's how the deck performs on the play, but what does it do on the draw? Well, a surprising amount. Femina being full combo on your opponent's turn and having access to so much non-engine means that there is a lot you can do. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Fuelos on their own turn, and if this seems ridiculous, recall how many decks actually perform Xyz, Synchro, and Fusion summons on your opponent's turn during this format. They're going through the Memento combo here, getting to Gaddock, setting back this copy of Tatsunoto Shigo into Sleepy effect in order to make a copy of Twin Dragon in order to pop the Sleepy, get a couple of cards, then activate the Sleepy in graveyard in order to send a copy of the Fusion. Fusion here can banish itself in order to cycle for a Fusion, then Twin Dragon can trigger in order to summon back the Tatsunoto Shigo. They'll use that effect, and I'm just holding. I don't see a negate yet. They're going to shuffle a bunch back for this Creation King, then activate the Creation King effect in order to send a number of cards, one of which is the Creation King, allowing them to get the field spell. They're going to set the Mictolon and summon back this copy of Combined Creation King using a card in their hand before they just go ahead and use the effect of the Engraver in yard. Okay, well, now it's probably time to go for the Nibiru. We'll do that and leave them with just a token for their troubles, but still, still, they can use Mictolon to set this copy of Fusion, so we are going to have to play a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! We'll draw for turn, and that's not a bad one. We're going to go for the Rahu to begin with, and we'll make a copy of Gulamel. We're going to trigger the Urgula and the Feimana here, and the Gulamel in order to get rid of the field spell, which is a lot of how they can interact. We'll go for Ketu afterwards, and set a copy of Horn as well. We'll pop that last remaining card, and then go for the effect of the Urgula to cycle back this copy of Feimana. Then we'll activate the Ketu in order to just go ahead and perform a Fusion Summon into an Arthalion. They'll scoop them up. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on Vanquished Soul, and while we are on the wrong half of the die roll, I really don't care about going second. We just have a lot we can accomplish. We're going to begin with a copy of Perulia into an Ash Blossom. That's unfortunate. Afterwards, we're going to go for a Holly Sue. Holly Sue's going to summon herself, then they'll activate the effect in order to go ahead and special summon a copy of Mad Love from deck. Mad Love is going to grab them the field spell. They'll activate the field spell, and good news for us, we have a Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. So we aren't going to have to deal with too much this turn. They'll go Raisin effect in order to grab themselves a copy of Borgar. Down comes Rocket the Vanquisher. They're going to cycle back this copy of Holly Sue, then use the effect of the Borgar cycling off the Raisin in order to summon itself, then its second effect in order to draw a card. The card they draw is Nibiru, which is horrifying. They'll go SP Little Knight. They're going to go for this Yokel afterwards, for the Yokel and the Holly Sue, then activate the Yokel, and afterwards overlay for a copy of Ripper. Ripper will trigger. They are going to add from deck to hand their last remaining card, then they'll go Forced Release Set. Izuna comes down, and Izuna's effect will activate, sending a copy of Lupus, and then we'll use the effect of the Lantern, summoning back the Lupus in order to summon it to our side of the field. Lantern effect here in order to grab a case for K9, followed up with Nash Knight into Nash Knight, and of course we can use the Nash Knight in order to make the Umbral Horror Masquerade. Finally, a case for K9 is going to get a Yokel. The Lupus can come back and overlay for a copy of Valon. This is a lot to chew through, but we might be able to do it. We'll begin with this Rahu Dracotail, which is going to enable us to get to Gulamel. We'll trigger the effect of the Pawn and the Feimana. They're going to Ripper here and Rocket the Vanquisher in order to grab back a copy of a Vanquished Soul Monster, followed up with a Valon, and that might be all she wrote. Alright, well, the chain will resolve. We'll get a Ketu, and then we'll go ahead and send the Umbral Horror. The Forced Release is going to overlay for a Werewolf, popping our Ketu, forcing us to normal summon a Malulu. We'll activate the effect in response to the Holly Sue. They'll go for the Werewolf. There goes our last material. Let's just go next. I definitely made some decisions I could have done differently in that game, but I don't know. Knowing the Nibiru draw, I feel pretty justified in doing what I did. It's time for game 2, and we have opened enough. As you can see, they've opened a copy of Fualos for our Ash Blossom, but outside of that, they're looking to mostly blow up our back row, it appears. We'll begin with a copy of Ketu Dracotail. I can't believe this card is as good as it is. We're going to go for a Lucius afterwards. That's going to grab us a copy of Pawn. Then afterwards, we can go for a Polymerization into a Fualos, into an Ash Blossom Joy Spring, into an Izuna, unfortunately. Okay, well, at point of resolution, we will just go ahead and make Arthalion. We'll trigger the effect of the Arthalion, targeting 2, then go for the Pawn and the Feimana here in order to set both a Rahu Dracotail and a copy of Dracotail Horn. We'll go ahead and get rid of this Izuna, then go for a Spirit with Eyes of Blue into a Hieratic Seal, into a Rahu in order to make a Gulamel. Gulamel here is going to enable us to get an Urgula into the graveyard. We'll activate that effect in order to set Flame, then the second effect in order to cycle back this copy of Feimana. Down comes the Lupus, and we will pass turn. They'll draw for turn, and this is unfortunate. Pretty good Feather Duster here. It's going to force out the Flame. We will go ahead and shuffle back this Rahu and negate it. Afterwards, they're going to go for a Holly Sue. We will chain Feimana, and they'll go next. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and God, there can be only one. How many times am I going to have to see this when playing against Vanquished Soul K9? Well, we're going second, but we've opened really well. Feimana plus a copy of Nibiru and a copy of Ash Blossom is exactly where we want to be. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Holly Sue. They'll summon it to their side of the field, then go for the effect. We will Ash Blossom here. Then at point of resolution, they are just going to go ahead and fire off the Yokel. Yokel summons out both this Xiaolong and itself, at which point we have to Feimana in order to send our hand to the graveyard for an Arthalion. We're going to trigger the effect of the Arthalion and the effect of the Labubu in graveyard for a Ketu Dracotail. We'll target the Yokel here in order to negate it and bounce 2. They'll set 1 and pass. We'll draw for turn. It's King of the Swamp. That's an unbelievable draw because as we go for Ketu, they flip up There Can Be Only One, and we get to show him off. We're going to send our hand to the graveyard for a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon who is a Spellcaster. Oh no. We could pop that copy of There Could Be Only One, cycle back to Feimana, and then get in for 1,003k. In main phase 2, we will just pass back to our opponent with access to a Feimana as well. They draw Vanquished Soul start. They'll go for the Holly Sue. That's worth a Dark Dragoon activation for me. Then afterwards, they can go for a Xiaolong to summon itself. They'll activate Vanquished Soul start and then try to activate the effect for 1. We'll activate Flame in order to negate it, and they are sitting on a lonely copy of Nibiru from this position. They can at least go Rocket the Vanquisher in order to cycle back this copy of Holly Sue, but that's all they can do as they walk into our Dragoon for lethal. So we're back with the deck, and God, these Jush matches just make my head hurt. I think we could have even played better. Going Arth might have won us game 1. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, the end board. This deck's end board is simple, but layered. Even for a low ceiling end board, you can make a draw 2, multiple bounces, a spell negate, a pop, and 1 to 2 fusions, plus whatever fusion graveyard effects you have, all backed up with a bunch of hand traps. This is awkward for any deck to break. 2, you can chain block really well. Due to all the Dracotails having a graveyard effect when fused, when you fuse, you can have 2 to 3 effects all activating simultaneously on chain, which means you can order your chain link to block interaction on things that are essential. Dodging Bell on Arthalion or Ripper on Pan, Urgula, Labubu, so the interaction goes through. And 3, board breaking. This deck is really good at picking apart a board. Rahu sending pawn from deck plus 1 or 2 from hand is 1 to 2 bounces on field and a non-targeting piece of monster destruction. The deck's graveyard effects paired with Arthalion or Guamel means you can use your engine pretty effectively to crack established setups. And the cons. 1, Ash Blossom. Like branded before it, Ash Blossom is by far the most effective hand trap against you. Being able to blank one of your fusions, very specifically Rahu, is notable as it restricts which Dracotails you have access to in the turn and can cut you off Urgula lines if your Ketu or Feimina have already been used. It also hurts you massively going second, as Rahu is one of your best breakers into established boards. Just a commonly played card that's going to lower your ceiling or reduce your board breaking potential. 2, stupid-ass trap cards like Dimensional Barrier. So, blanking your ability to fuse can be game-ending. Your ceiling and your board breaking come from fusing away these Dracotails, and you don't really have any substantial plays in engine outside of fusions. It's not a complete silver bullet. Labubu and Feimina and Cartesia are all quick effects. You can use them during the next turn of the game, but often you're going to end on nothing if barriered. And if you're going second, it's going to blank a fusion spell and force you to pass back to an unbroken board, which is a loss. And 3, Shifter and Arclight. So your Dracotails have to hit the graveyard after being sent its fusion material. Cards that force banishes when sent from the hand of the main deck to the graveyard, like Arclight, can therefore cut you off of your resources after you've fused. Arthalion can't retrieve any of the materials used for it if Arclight is on the field, and none of your Dracotails are going to proc to set spell traps if they're banished instead. Overall, the third deck of Justice Hunters definitely looks like it's going to take a smaller piece of the metagame pie than K9 and Yummy, but it's definitely going to be present at the table. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These 10-minute testings are made possible by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons, some of whom have paid a lot of money to be mentioned at the end of the episode. Here are them now. Elena Tincher, Allison Elliott, Ally, APK Pearly Tier 0, Brett Henry, Captive XC, Cool Name, Damon O'Neill, Dark Rebel XYZ, DJ Elefante, El Gravo, El Guacho Malas Opiniones, Emiliano De Verino, NB Adams, Fabrizio Petroli, Felix, Garrett Rand, Hergalicious, John Paradise, Night Mary, Legal Rights, Lucas Rosas, Luis Hernandez, Master Key 090, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nacho Gonzalez, Pombo, Project Mercury, Rants Are My Thing, Rohan Doge, Rose Lapine, Serpentax, Sly Ninja 43, Soul CLG, Troy Says By Erasure Is Gay, Buznik, Yuki Kazami, and Zircon Sun. Couldn't have done it without you.